Well, hi everybody. This is Trigby from BusyWeb. We are going to get started in just a minute, but today we're going to be talking about growing your business with email and social media together, using them in concert to make your business grow. So we're going to wait just to let everybody catch up who is on the who's joining remotely. But thanks everybody for joining us. So give us just a few seconds to get everything up and running, and then we will get started. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We wanted to make sure that we gave everybody a minute or two to join, so we'll do some introductory stuff before we really get into the meat and bones of things. So my name is Trigby. I am the Director of Business Development at BusyWeb, and I'll tell you a little bit about BusyWeb. I am going to be going through this information very, very quickly. So if you miss something, if you feel like you'd like to review it, once I'm done here, I will post this to YouTube, so you'll be able to use it and review. Otherwise, if you're interested in talking with me, I'd be more than happy to chat, and we can talk through anything that you might have missed, and my contact information is right there. So what is BusyWeb? Well, we're a full-service digital marketing agency. We are based in the suburb of Champlin of Minneapolis. We're about 20 minutes outside of Minneapolis, and we take care of everything under the sun as it relates to digital marketing for our clients. We build websites, we grow their audience, we get their audience to take conversion measures so that we can actually tell and grow and demonstrate the value of marketing for you and your clients. So if you're interested, I'd be more than happy to chat with you after the fact, but please rest assured this is not a timeshare presentation by any means, so you should just sit back and learn and hopefully enjoy a little. So what am I going to be talking about today? Well, first I'm going to be talking about how small business marketing has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. Then we're going to talk about how do you set a goal? How do you create a goal that actually makes sense for you and is realistic? Then how do you choose a message? Where do you put it? How do you build relationships through content? And then how do you get people to really, truly take an action? Finally, and most importantly, we're going to talk about how to measure your success, how to really genuinely tell that you've earned a gold star that you can give yourself. And then how I'd suggest you get started. So we're going to give it just a few seconds to let some stragglers come in. For those of you who just got here, thanks for joining us. We're talking about email and social media working together. So let's start with some level setting. Everybody who is in business should recognize something that looks like this. This is a garden variety sales funnel. You spend the majority of your time growing your prospect list. You spend more and more time with those people that you weed out of the prospect list to try and get them to become clients and come into your location to get them to buy from you. This is basically what they teach in garden variety business school on the first day. It's the sales funnel. The trouble is, with the advent of the internet and social media marketing, it's actually wrong, and it looks like this now. You need to be as consistent as possible, and you need to go after your customer base and your client base as much as you possibly can, because with the advent of Google, the world is essentially flat, informationally speaking. Our customers and our clients can find out things about us and about the people that we compete with at any time. So your customers is no longer a 9-to-5 proposition. Now you need to look as good as possible to somebody who's sitting at home at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday watching an old episode of Law and Order. How are you going to be looking to that person? Are they going to be making mental notes about working with you after the Law and Order episode is done? How are they going to be able to contact you? Because realistically, those people who are sitting there, they're not going to be able to talk to you. They're not going to want to talk to you. So how do you get it to look as good as you do? The good news is you do have a great authentic advantage. And that's who you are as a person. So the trick is we need to be able to demonstrate who you are as a person and that you are genuinely interested in your customer's overall success. In doing that, if we can demonstrate that in a loud environment like social media, we're going to get a lot of people to look at it. Similarly, being a small business owner is not a bad thing by any means, because it gives you the opportunity to make better connections over a longer period of time using social media as a megaphone to really identify who those people are. If you put a note on the Facebook page for something like Coke, and you let good people at Coca-Cola know that you really love their product and it's changed their life, well, that's nice, but those people will have been getting so many different contacts throughout the day, they won't have an opportunity to engage with you and say thank you and appreciate you for buying their product. That's what you have the opportunity to do. You have the opportunity to make that authentic connection. So how do you do this? Well, the operative word is engagement. We want to connect with people where those people want to be connected with, be it Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, even Yelp, or even an email. People will want to be engaged with where they want to be engaged with. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we figure out what our customers actually want us to tell them, and where do they want they want to be told. Once we figure those two things out, then everything else tends to fall into place. So the good news is that's a ton of options. The bad news is that's a ton of options. So we want to make sure that as we're creating our process today, that we really do make the most effective decisions possible for us. So as we're talking about different social channels and different social platforms, it's important that you have a good understanding of where your clients are. If your clients are not on Twitter, you don't need to be on Twitter. Simple as that. So that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about today, is how do you effectively choose a platform. So question for you, what do you think the #1 cell phone app in the world is? By and large, you might be thinking to yourself, it might be Facebook, it might be Candy Crush, it might be any number of things, but the actual answer to the question is it's email. Over half of all email is presented on a mobile device now. So no matter how beautiful your email is and your message is, realize that people are going to be looking at it on a 4-inch screen. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that I integrate with our conversation today is that we talk about email marketing as a complement to social media marketing. First of all, the return on investment, ROI, is fantastic. By and large, you should be getting about $41 back for every dollar you spend on email marketing. It also gives you the opportunity to connect in a great way for a very inexpensive cost. So, second question I want to ask you. When you're looking at Amazon and you're trying to figure out what you want to buy, they have the comment section there. And if you're anything like me, which most people to an extent are, they will look at the negative comments first. And I'm sure some of you out there might do the same thing. The reason is it's titillating, it's interesting. You want to see what was the bad stuff that happened, so that you know it will or will not happen to you. So as a result of that, the conclusion that we can draw is that we actually trust strangers now more than we trust the people in our world. And the data holds this to be true. 46% of people rely on social media marketing, like reviews, when they're making a purchase. Almost half of the people are going to be looking at reviews of you. But more than almost 90% of the people find online reviews as trustworthy, if not more so, as a personal recommendation. So almost double of the people will look to people they've never met before to help them make an evaluative buying decision. What that means for you is that we want to make sure that we are providing the most consistent customer experience across all of our channels as much as humanly possible, because one bad customer will end up costing us business, even in ways that we can't even imagine. So for our lecture here today, I've decided that congratulations, we are all going into business together. You are now part owner of the Half Moon Yoga Studio, which is founded by me. I will be your yogi. So we've opened our Half Moon Yoga Studio. It's great. Obviously, you can see we have a beautiful storefront. What do we need first? Is it a business plan? Well, yeah. Is it customers? Well, yeah. So what we want to do is figure out the things that we need. Number one, we need customers. Number two, we need to offer them something. And number three, we need to make it enticing for them. So that's what we're going to talk about next is what is an appropriate goal to set. And we're going to use that yoga studio as a framework, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to do some of this on your own. So the first question that we want to talk about when we're talking about goal setting is what exactly are we trying to achieve? There are a lot of different things that you can potentially try and achieve. There's a lot of different ways you can take a digital campaign. Are you trying to increase something, either attendance or money in your pocket? Are you trying to drive new people into learning about a new product or service that you offer? Are you trying just to engage the community on the whole, letting them know that you're there and letting them know that you can be beneficial to their lives? Are you trying to reach people in ways that they haven't been reached before, or even just nurture the existing people that you are working with? All of these are acceptable answers, and all of these are right. So the question that I want you to think about first is what is the most, in your business, what is the thing that you are trying to achieve more than anything? So here's how you do this. You write down 3 specific goals. I'm going to give you about a minute to do this. Number 1, who are you trying to reach? What does your customer look like? Number 2, if you're creating a marketing campaign, what is your target? How many people would you like to reach? And what action would you like them to take? And number 3, when would this be accomplished? Give yourself a realistic timetable in order to do this. Everybody would like to double their business. I would like to double BusyWeb's business by the end of the month. But being that it is the 27th of the month and we do a pretty decent business, that's a tall order. So make sure that your goals are as realistic as possible. So I want you to take a minute and pull out a piece of paper and actually write down your own goals. So in the example of our yoga studio, and I'll talk through this so that you should be writing your goals down right now. In our yoga studio, what do we need? Well, we need new members to our class, and we want to set a goal. Well, we've got classes that we're offering, so we want to see an average of at least 10 people coming to a class. And then finally, from a timetable, how do we know from a start to finish whether or not we've been successful? I put a time on there of 3 months. So this is a great example of a good goal, who we're targeting, what we're wanting them to do. We want them to come to class, and we want them to do so over the next 3 months. So I'm going to give you a little time right now, probably about 30 seconds on my watch because I don't want to lose you, take an opportunity and write down a goal based on this who, what, and when scenario as it works for you. Ready? Go. All right, hopefully you've been able to take the time to figure out what a good goal for you is. The key thing that I want you to keep in mind, but before we move on here, is this when and what. Words like double and triple are great, but they're not realistic. So put actual percentages on there because you really want to be able to measure whether or not you were successful. And certainly doubling is something to be wildly successful, but it's not really realistic. So make sure that your what and your when are making your lives easier and making a goal that's hopefully ambitious, but still able to be set. All right, so in our yoga studio, we've figured out a goal. We need to get people coming to class. We want to measure our marketing efforts over the next 3 months. So the next thing is choosing the right message in order to do that. Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to figure out where exactly are we going to be talking to people. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, what is the best social channel for me? My God's honest answer is, I don't know. The reason is that your audience is going to be completely different than my audience, which is going to be completely different than everybody else's audience. The things in what that your audiences are going to want to see and they're going to want to participate in are going to be completely different. So if I had to boil it down into 2 things that I really think everybody, all small business marketers really should take a look at, it's working with email marketing and Facebook marketing. And so that's kind of what I'm going to set my framework here to talk about today. Are those the end all and be all? No. Are there other things that you could be doing that could be just as helpful? Absolutely. But in sort of the abstract form for our yoga studio, I want to talk about email and social together, and email and Facebook together. The reason is, with email, 90% of it, by and large, gets delivered to the inbox. So if we're trying to actually reach our customers, about 90% of the time it's going to get there. But with Facebook, only about 2% of those people see you in their news feed. And that's because of the Facebook algorithm. Facebook likes to guess what they think that you would be interested in, and they guess what you possibly would want to see, and they base your news feed based on that. So you can see, of those 2, we want to make sure that we work together to have those 2 things bounce off of each other and work in concert. The reason, and the data does support that, email and social media working together gets you more customer engagement, 73% more. It gets you more new customers, and it gets a more business referral relationship out of the 2 things working together. So if you're only doing one of those 2 things, I'd really encourage you to try it and integrate the second one into everything that you're doing, because you want to have the 2 things working in concert. Here's a good example of what that looks like in terms of in real time. So here is an email that was done for a local barbecue place. What is the call to action there? Well, they want you to check out the new menu items, and they want you to come in and make a reservation. You can see that button at the bottom of the page there that says make a reservation. It's clear, it's to the point, it's got some beautiful pictures, the branding is great. It's a well done email. So how does that translate into social? Well, we're going to do the same kind of thing on social media. We're going to ask the same question: have you seen our latest news? Which is that we have new menu items. But then what we want to do is turn around and have them come to the website or make a reservation. So we talked about this a little earlier about being where your customers are, and this is a great opportunity when we're talking about email and social together to really understand where your customers are. So there's a couple of different places to put social iconography in an email, and the value in doing that is, in this particular instance, I've got 5 different social channels. You can actually tell based on click-through rates, which is something that most email service providers will give you, where your customers and the people who are your prospects are actually going to. So in this particular instance, as you can see, the majority of the people went to Pinterest, not to Facebook. So as we're trying to decide which platform to use, having email marketing let us know anonymously where our prospect list where they want to go and what they want to do and what they want to see is going to be incredibly helpful. When do you send and post? Well, again, that completely depends on your industry and your audience. But if I had to give it to you in an abstract form, by and large, 3 to 5 times a week is plenty. I encourage people to use automated tools. The one I like best is one called Hootsuite, and it's spelled Hootsuite. I think that's a great product, and I think the paid version now is they've raised their prices recently to about $7 a month. So it's very inexpensive, but it gives you the opportunity to schedule all of your social media posts at one time, so you don't have to wake up in the morning and think, what do I have to write today on Facebook, or what do I have to write today on Twitter? If you're going to send an email, by and large, once a month is about the most common use of an email service provider. The caveat that I want to give you here is that you want to make sure that your email is being delivered with the most optimal frequency and time. So there's some testing that you can do to figure out when is the best time to have your email opened and when is the best time date during the day to get people to do what you want to do. So, and we have at BusyWeb, we have a couple of other webinars. You can check those out on our YouTube channel on how to do that. Okay, so hypothetically, we've picked our platform. The next thing we want to do is figure out, what do we say? Well, we've got a goal in which we want to accomplish. And we know where we're going to say it, but now we need to figure out how and what we are going to say. So first thing to keep in mind when we're talking about content is realize that it's not all about what you think. In fact, what you think is by and large not helpful. What is helpful is what your customers and what your prospects want to hear from you. That's what you need to be writing, that's what you need to be doing, and that's what you need to be sharing. Content is all about what they want, not what you think that they want. So what we've come up with here is about what we consider the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, you're going to want to be talking about valuable content, ways in which you can demonstrate who you are as people, your company culture, things that you've done to help other people. And then 20% of the time, you want to promote your business. How does this look in real time? Well, here's the difference. A helpful piece of content is 3 common mistakes on your taxes. If we're going to promote our business, we would say, let us do our taxes. Neither one of those are right or wrong. There's no wrong answer when it comes to content, but one is a little softer and one is a little harder. So depending upon the time and the place, it's more helpful to have a 4 out of 5 strategy of helpful information, and then having that 1 out of 5 time be that ask that we're looking for to promote our business. So in this particular instance, this is a local hotel that we worked with that was trying to fill up their rooms, and the way in which we did that was talking about the actual rooms itself, making them sort of theme rooms, and really it was a great way to talk about and promote the individual room, not saying, hey, come see us right away. So everyone in our business, in any business, really, all of our businesses we have frequently asked questions. And so let me back up a second. Really what I want to be talking about now is the $64,000 question, which is, what do we say and how do we say it? Well, as we're thinking about the questions that were asked frequently, we want to answer those questions before they're even posed. Remember, the person that we're trying to reach is sitting on their couch and they've got a phone in front of them or their iPad. So that's the person we're trying to talk to. So they're going to have those same questions that we get asked in a face-to-face meeting. We just want to actually ask them without them being answered. So here are a couple of questions that come up, just some sample questions. How do I weatherproof my golf bag? Can I set my own volunteer hours? Where are you located? Things like that. Those give us the opportunity to turn those questions into content. So we're, instead of that question of how do you weatherproof your golf bag, how about giving a tutorial in how to do it? Can I set my own volunteer hours? Here are the top 3 benefits to volunteering this summer. And then where's the map of your location? Hey, great. Here's a map of where we are in a content form. So in doing that, what we've done is hopefully you've taken a little shave off the top of how hard it is to create original content, because all of us are thinking about those questions that we get asked all the time. So just start writing them down and then figuring out ways in which to present those information. Similarly, when we're creating email subject lines, we want to use effective content in order to do that. So we want to make sure that any effective subject line is only about 5 to 8 words long. It is no more than, it includes numbers, because we're trying to set expectations for what we're doing and how much time that we are asking of the people that we are working with. So of that, we want to make sure that we're respectful of their time. They know before opening the email that they're going to get 3 reasons to have somebody else do your taxes, or 5 reasons to go to yoga, something like that. It's finite. It helps define the relationship as you're going. And then finally, you want to make sure that you encourage action. This is something that's very hard for a lot of rookie marketers to do, because they don't want to offend people and they don't want to feel like they're overbearing. I can pretty much guarantee you that you're not going to be overbearing. But if you're just out to educate somebody and just out to get them to learn about you, then that's not going to be helpful. You really need them to take a step, take an action, move to the next part in the process. So you don't have to write everything from scratch. In fact, one time I taught this class and I had somebody tell me that anytime they found something new, they took it offline, they rewrote it in their own words, and then they reposted it. That is, again, I'm going to use a technical term here. That's Looney Tunes. You absolutely shouldn't do that, because it's plagiarism, for one. Second, nobody has that kind of time. But there are different ways in which you can use good resources in order to make your life easier when coming up with content. You can share blogs, you can write blogs, you can provide interviews of your clients or testimonials and have them provide it. You can find other interesting things on social media or funny things on social media. You can have special guests, people who are complementary to your business but not a direct competitor to your business, offer some suggestions, or you could even just give something as simple as industry news. You want to make sure that as you are talking or even putting yourself out there, that you show and demonstrate that you're an expert in what you do. That's one of the reasons why we do this, is so that all of you out there can, when the time comes, remember that, hey, BusyWeb took care of you and helped you learn. Finally, one of the things that I really like is offering survey results. I get asked all the time, can you please just take 5 minutes to fill out this form, and then you'd be entered into a drawing to win an iPad. Well, I do that a lot, and I've never won the iPad yet, but I keep trying. But one of the things that you can do in order to learn from that is you're really asking for a commitment of time, and you're asking for people to provide feedback to your business. Sharing those survey results will actually validate that ask that you made. So if you're asking somebody to provide your time, you're actually thanking them and demonstrating that you really did listen to them by providing some survey results. Across the board, you want to make sure that everything that you do is consistent. So I've got an example here of a website and an email that look the same. It's got the same color scheme. It's got the same logo. It's got the same badging. So as you are starting to demonstrate to your prospect list that you do know what you're doing, you're being as consistent as possible. So a couple of pro tips for you. Make sure that you're consistent. Make sure that you match your colors, and make sure that your tone is the same. If you have particular catchphrases or things that you say, one of the things that the people I work with say that I say a lot is that I start a conversation by saying, hey, fun fact, and then I tell them something benign and potentially silly. Use those kind of tonal influences in your writing, because it helps demonstrate your authenticity. Next, if we're using pictures, there's a fantastic reasons for using pictures. We want to make sure that we are doing so in not an overwhelming way. So in this particular instance, this is a video. If you include video, you only want to make it about 90 seconds or less. And if you're including images in anything that you do or share, don't have more than three images, and make sure that they're clickable. I can't tell you how many times that I see something online that I want to buy, that I click on it, and it takes me to a picture of the thing. Well, that's great, and not very helpful. I wanted to buy it. I didn't want to look at the picture of the thing. So make sure that you take that opportunity to have good wind speed by making sure that everything goes somewhere when people click on it. Next, we want to make sure that everything that we do, especially when it comes to email, looks great on mobile. Remember, we can spend hours in front of a computer and hours agonizing over the look and feel of our email. And at the end of the day, remember that at least half, if not more, of our audience is going to be looking at it on a 4-inch device. So it has to be mobile responsive. It has to render and look as good as possible on a phone, just as much as it does on a computer. So a couple of things to keep in mind as you're doing this. Number one, avoid multiple columns in an email. That's the quickest way to have a lot of errors when somebody goes to a mobile device. Second, and this is important for me as I get older, is use larger fonts. I do this for a living, and I get very cranky very quickly if I have to squint to read something. Third, you want to make sure that you limit your images, because ultimately the call to action is the most important part, which we're going to get to in just a second, not how pretty your imagery is. So we've figured out our our goal. We've picked where we're going to put our messaging. We've talked about content and how we're going to get people to actually take the action that we want to take. Next, we want to write a really good call to action. And that's that 20% piece of the pie that we talked about earlier. How do we do that in such a way that, number one, is actually helpful, and number two, doesn't make us feel like we're wearing a checkered sports coat or anything like this? So I have this great picture here that I like to over-explain, so please bear with me a second. So on the left, we have our goals, and that's and on the right, we have the actual results. And you can see that they're not there, and they're not together. One of those people who are taking that leap of faith to cross the bridge between your results and your goals is you. The other one is your hypothetical prospect. So in order to do that, your prospect has to have a really good reason to take a leap of faith. And that's what's known as a call to action. And that's the thing that we're going to be talking about now. What exactly is a call to action? Well, it's a clearly defined place that you want to send somebody to have them do the thing that you want. As we're talking about digital marketing, one of the simplest ways to do that is by using a button. By and large, buttons create more than about a 50% boost in your click rate. So here's a great example. Here's 2 emails from the exact same company. One on the left is something that they sent out a long time ago. One on the right is something that was created for them. Which is the one that is most attractive to you that you would like to read? Well, just from the first glance, it's probably going to be the one on the right. The one on the left probably has a lot more detail, but if you're anything like me, you're going to roll your eyes and think, oh, I do not have that kind of time to take care of that. The one on the right has a clear call to action. They want you to ask us how to do what they do. So ideally what happens when you click that button is it takes you to a form fill out, and then that starts the sales process, which is really all you want. Really, as you're looking at these, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that one on the left is really great. There's a lot of information in there. Again, keep in mind your goal is not to educate. You don't need educated consumers. What you need is consumers who are going to be engaging with you. So the key word is not to have it's not to educate, but to inspire to action. So here's how to design a really great call to action. Number one, narrow it down to just one thing. Don't do 2 things, just do one thing. Number two, use actionable language. So tell people the action that you want them to take and give them the opportunity to do it. Third, stay above the scroll. So what exactly is the scroll line? Well, it's much like the newspaper with the fold in the newspaper. The most important information is usually above the fold. So if you're going to have the most important thing, which is your call to action, make sure that it's above the line that somebody has to scroll to get to look at. Easiest way to do this is by creating clickable buttons. So let's go back to our yoga studio that we created and review our goal. So we have, we want to engage current or previous members or new members to increase our class attendance, and we want to do so to the tune of 10 attendees per class over the next 3 months. Okay, well, how do we do that? What's a great simple call to action? The one that we came up with is this: view the schedule. You got to be thinking to yourself, well, wait, why are we talking about the schedule? What does that have to do with anything? Well, again, think about those frequently asked questions. If we are getting an email from a yoga studio talking about the value and benefit of yoga, that's all fine and good, but the obvious first question is, can this fit into my life? Can I make this happen in a time that is helpful and advantageous to me? So in order to do that, we are answering the question that is unanswered to us personally, but is a frequently asked question. Take a look at the schedule. And by creating the simple call to action, we're not clubbing people over the head and demanding that they buy today or else. We're just saying, view the schedule. We're getting people to start to say yes. We're imprinting on them by asking them very small, bite-sized questions that, of course, they're going to say yes to, so that by the time we ask them for money, they're conditioned to say yes. Where does your call to action go? Well, it goes anywhere that you need it to go, but it does need to go directly to the next step. So here's an animal rescue. What are they wanting you to do? Well, they're wanting you to volunteer. Where does that click-through page go? Well, it goes to the volunteer management page. Here's how you sign up to become a volunteer. It doesn't take you to the website where then you have to figure out what you were doing and why you were there in the first place. It takes you directly to where you need to go. Here's another example. Announcing the Winter Gala. Where do they want us to go? What do they want us to do? Well, they'd like us to reserve a table. So they need to take us directly to the table reservation so we know exactly how to get there and exactly what we need to do. Here's a third. Get your coupon now, redeem instantly. Wow, that sounds great. Do I have to give out and fill a lot of information? No, just print this out and take it into the store. Once you take it into the store, oh my goodness, now we've started the engagement process and got people to do the thing that we want them to do, which is show up and take the action. So it might cost us a couple coupons, but that's okay. All right, so we've created a message, we've created our goal, we've figured out how to ask people to do what we want them to do. Now we need to figure out whether or not we were successful in doing that or not. So the easiest thing that I can suggest that you do is actually measure your success. Have a good understanding of what your initial baseline is, and then how well you've taken it to the next step. The easiest way to do that is by measuring things like openings, clicks, how many people registered for an event, how many people filled out a form, how many people downloaded a coupon. Those are things that you can put tangible numbers in front of, so you know that once you've gotten 10 people to redeem a coupon, your marketing effort has been successful. Ultimately, what you want to do is make this to be a math equation, so you understand how to solve for X. And by putting a number on X, then everything else can easily fall into place. What do measurements actually look like? Well, in the terms of the animal rescue, they got 11 new volunteers. In terms of the Winter Gala, they had 500 attendees. And for the coupons claimed, they had 53 coupons claimed. So really, this is where the good stuff resides right here. If your goal was that you wanted to get 10 new volunteers, well, then you probably were successful. If you wanted to get more than 400 attendees, yep, you beat that. If you wanted to get 60 coupons claimed, well, you didn't quite make it, but you got pretty darn close. So it's a good way. It's a good way to help understanding what you excuse me. When you're setting those goals and they're actually achievable, then you can truly feel good about what you're doing, which is important. What are some ways to measure what those look like? Well, one of the easiest ways to do it is the open rate for email marketing. Best way to do that is evaluate the day and the time you're sending it, and telling it so you can see what the open rate is here. Making sure that your subject line has those rules that we talked about earlier, and that it is recognizable who it's coming from. I meet a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, and I talk to a lot of people. I've never once in my life met anyone with the name info. So if you're sending out email from an info @ account, you need to stop that right away. By and large, a good industry average for an open rate is about 20%. If you're good, you can get that higher. We are good, so our clients average higher than that. But if you can get to about 20%, you're doing pretty well. Think of this like a ballpark. The open rate is defining the size and the scope of the people who are coming to the ball game. But the click-through, that's the people who are really buying the hot dogs and the souvenir helmet sundaes. That's when we're really getting into what we want them to do. So we want to make sure that our call to action is simple. People clearly understanding what you want them to do. The links are clear. They're formatted so they stand out, and that the targeting content is going to the right people. And by that, I mean your message is going to be different for your prospects than it is for your existing customers. So you want to make sure that the content matches the audience. By and large, a good click-through rate is about 10%. The industry average is anywhere from 5 to 15%. But if you're getting that 10% number, you should be doing pretty well. Okay, so thanks for bearing with me so far. Hopefully, you've politely chuckled at some of my jokes, as bad as they are. So let's round third and really take this home. I wanted to take a moment before we really came to the end to remind you something that it might be a little overwhelming at this point. You really can do this. You really can start today. You really can set goals today. Everything that we talked about is not rocket science, nor is it particularly death-defying. If you write a bad email, nobody's going to die. Nobody's going to think less of you. It's just going to be a bad email, and they're going to delete it. So it's good to start. It's good to start getting good movement and get going. So here are the 3 things that I suggest that you do to start. Number 1, write a goal. Let people know where you're going to be, what you want to do, how you want to do it. Again, we want to make sure that it's realistic and it's got some time associated with it so that people know exactly what you want them to do and you know whether or not those people have taken the action you want. Next, design a call to action. That's going to involve those frequently asked questions, which are now unanswered questions. How do we get them to answer, utilize that resource of those frequently asked questions to get people to take an action to seek out the answer that we want them to seek out? And then finally, measure your results. Really figure out a way that you can tell whether or not you've been successful in meeting your goal. And if you are, then keep going. And if not, then try again. By all means, absolutely try again. So again, just in closing, I want to say you really can do this. Look, our yoga studio is successful and it's thriving now, and it's going great. This is an opportunity for you to grow your business as well. This is an opportunity for you to take the next steps in making it bigger and better. So if you have questions, if you're concerned, if you want to talk further about this, I would be happy to do so. If you need some help with website development or anything like this, I'd be more than happy to work with you, answer your questions in a full and forthright manner. So that's everything I have for you today. Thank you for taking part. Thank you for participating. I know we've got another webinar coming up in about 15 minutes, so go back to your email and check that out. The afternoon is full of really good information. So thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for sticking with me. If you'd like to reach out, I'd love to hear from you at Trigby@busyweb.com. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.